Well, welcome to Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and always thanks for watching. Well, it's time for our usual update on Pennsylvania's highways and byways, and then guess what? It's not surprising. The Attorney General of the state of Pennsylvania, Kane, is back in the news. We'll get to all of that in a moment.
This is Pennsylvania Newsmakers, a fast-paced, unrehearsed weekly discussion with and about the leaders who shape your world. And now, here's your host, Terry Madonna.
Welcome back. Well, I think if you've driven Pennsylvania's highways, you know that there's a lot of construction going on. We're going to do one of our regular updates. Bob Latham, he's the Executive VP of the Associated Pennsylvania Constructors and a regular guest on the program. And joining me for the first time is Leslie Richards. She's a Pennsylvania Transportation Secretary. She was a Montgomery County Commissioner. I got that right, don't I, Secretary?
You sure did.
All right. Well, Bob, let me start with you, Madam Secretary. You can't drive anywhere without seeing construction going on, and we're going to talk about what we should do when we get to those sites. But I don't remember a time when there's been this much construction. So give us a quick update. What's going on?
There's a lot of pavements to smooth out. There's a lot of bridges to fix. A lot of investment in infrastructure that's been deferred over the years, and thank goodness to Act 89 and some predictable funding sources, we're finally able to get a lot of these projects out of the pipeline. So I think I'm one of the only people, but I hope everyone takes a step back and enjoys the construction, because it means jobs, it means work's getting done, and our infrastructure is getting in better shape.
Is it going on everywhere? I mean, I drive the state a good bit, not as much. You do a regular commute, I know, from Montgomery County to Harrisburg and other places for in your role. Is it more focused in one place, or is it literally everywhere?
It's everywhere. I mean, we are spreading the projects everywhere throughout all our districts here in Pennsylvania, and it's good to see. Activity is everywhere. Investment is needed everywhere. Our infrastructure is all aging at the same time and needs to be fixed at the same time.
Now, the Secretary talked about, you want to add something to that before I go on?
Well, I just want to reiterate, like the Secretary said, we deferred this for a number of years, and finally what we're seeing is, I guess, the fruits or the benefits of the multimodal transportation funding bill that passed a couple of years ago.
$2.4 billion a year for a number of years.
Right, and the other thing to point out about that bill is what it's allowing us to do is catch up and repair our aging infrastructure. And as a result of the neglect before that, we weren't able to sometimes do it right. Now we're able to go back and do it right, and these projects take a little bit longer.
I want to ask you both this question. The Secretary brought this up. We all get frustrated. Let's be candid. We all get frustrated. To talk to our viewers out there, we get in this line and the construction's going on. But Bob, isn't it the price we pay to get these roads fixed? How do we fix them? There's going to be single lanes. There's going to be delays.
There's two ways of doing it. You can shut a road down and cause detours and get it, maybe end the project sooner. And these are things that the engineers and the department weigh in terms of disruption to commerce and that sort of thing. Or you do it under traffic. And when you do it under traffic, it takes longer. There's more staging, and it's dangerous. And it's important for people to slow down when they go through those work zones. And because if we slow down, it'll also allow us to flow through those work zones at the speeds at which they were designed.
How about just leaving a little more time? We're an impatient society, right?
We're always in a rush.
We're all impatient, but go ahead. Right?
No, it's true. But the good thing about having this predictable funding is we're able to go in there and we're able to do the major reconstruction projects, where before we were only able to do these Band-Aid projects, which made us go back over the same projects
great point.
in a much smaller amount of time. So you would see us back after half a dozen to a dozen years. Now, if we have the money, which we do, we can do the major reconstruction. We don't have to go back and revisit that piece of pavement for a good 15 to 20 years.
I'm sorry. What about bridge replacement? 25%. What do I got that right? About 25% of structural disrepair. How's that?
Well, we've actually made a huge improvement. So we have 25,000 state bridges at PennDOT, and we're down to 4,000 structurally deficient bridges, which is a huge improvement from where we were. Now 4,000 is still a large number. We used to be #1 in the nation. Now we're probably in the top 10. But we're working hard, and we've got some really innovative programs, our Rapid Bridge Replacement Program, our local bridge bundling program, that are going to see that number decrease even more.
All right, we're doing this regular update, bridge, highways, all kinds of repairs and construction underway. We want to talk a little bit about the feds and what their role is in all this. And if we have some time, municipal roads, what's going on there? Our guests will weigh in on that and more after these words. Good.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, the statewide voice of business. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Highway Information Association, the go-to source to learn about transportation projects and issues. Please visit pahighwayinfo.org. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
Welcome back. Bob Latham and Secretary Richards joins me. We're doing a little update on roads and bridges. Let's talk a little bit about funding for highways. It's always controversial. It's even more controversial than ever, it seems to me, in Congress. But it's critically important because states can't do this alone. Mm-hmm. Do I got that wrong?
No, you have it absolutely right. We're keeping our eye on federal funding. Again, it's very important for us to have predictable funding sources. Pennsylvania counts on $1.6 billion a year from federal funds. A large part, 40% of our capital program uses federal funds. And so, as I said, we are keeping our eye. We are hoping that Congress does exactly what our General Assembly did. And putting up a tough vote with Act 89, bipartisan. Yeah. This is not Democrat or Republican. No. Everyone needs infrastructure.
Yeah, Bob and I talked about this. Here's what I don't get, and I have to be neutral on this, but let's be honest. How can we not have roads for safety, good maintained roads and bridges for safety? How are we going to get businesses? Bob will smile here because we've been through this so many times.
Well, I mean, talking about it, the issue at the national level, the federal level, I mean, internal improvements was one of the first things that our founding fathers decided was a core function of the national
And it was
government.
Controversial then, by the way, but go ahead.
I guess so. But the thing is, look at what it's done. Look at what rail infrastructure did for the country in the 1800s. Look at what the interstate highway system did. Look at the needs of our ports and how we get goods and services in and out. And as the Secretary said, it was not that, well, it took a while, but in the end, it was not a political liability for people to vote for better highways, better transit, better rail, and better biking and walking paths as well. So Congress needs to step up. Our Keystone Transportation Funding Coalition put forth a proposal to our delegation, which is very similar to what we did here in Pennsylvania. Let's move the funding stream up to the refinery level.
Do I have to ask how that's being received?
It's being received very well.
Our delegation,
our delegation looks at it and thinks it's a good idea. Now the problem is in Congress you have a House of Representatives that appears to be dominated by people that don't want to do anything. Yeah. The Senate has moved sort of a lesser bill, but we'll see. They've given themselves another 60 days, and as the Secretary said, I think we're very hopeful that at least we pass a long-term bill so she can have predictable funding and program these projects into the future.
Yeah, one of the things that's sort of fascinating is that we talk about roads and bridges, but it's much more than that. I mean, it's about bike paths, it's about pedestrian access, it's freight and rail. Senator Casey has been particularly has this concern about the transportation of fuels that are potentially very dangerous. So how much of your time is now going to get devoted to sort of broadening the scope of what you do?
It's a big focus of mine and Governor Wolf as well. PennDOT, while we have our highways and our bridges, we also have our waterways, our ports, our rail, passenger and freight. Obviously, we're dealing with trucking and aviation also comes under PennDOT. And one of the things Act 89 really helped us do is really stabilize a lot of our smaller transit agencies. We've been able to consolidate, we've been able to reduce administration costs and really help them use the money for what they need, which is their operations.
And what we tend to forget is how Pennsylvania is literally, in a sense, a transit state. If you want to get from the Northeast to the Midwest, you got to go through our state. If you want to go south to north, well, maybe you can bypass us a bit and go up through New Jersey, right? But
it is the Keystone State.
Yeah. Why did I not think of that? Why did you think of that? Well, look,
you're the professor.
That's true. I want to thank you for coming in. It's a great update. Well, the Attorney General, Kathleen Kane, is back in the news. We'll get to that in a moment.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by Pennsylvania Credit Union Association. Pennsylvania Credit Unions, where people are worth more than money. To find a credit union that is right for you,